Hi, welcome to Chad's Silversmithing. Before we get started with this video, if you wouldn't mind hitting the like button, that helps to get my channel promoted, and I really appreciate it. I'd also love it if you leave a comment. I appreciate suggestions for videos. How you do things is always interesting for me. Constructive criticism, just whatever crosses your mind. So leave a comment. Today, I wanted to talk about something that's been an issue in the past at times. Sometimes good, sometimes bad. But occasionally when you do this, you're going to get people ask you to do a custom-made piece. And I wanted to go over some issues that I've run into in the past, as well as some things that I would suggest doing if and when you take a contract piece. So before we get started, I wanted to thank some people. My patrons over on Patreon are a great group of people. I have a new one. It's Denise L. Thank you for signing up. I really appreciate your support. I think, Denise, that you'll find that the people over on Patreon are a totally cool group of people with a lot of knowledge and who like to help each other. So it's a great community, and I wanted to welcome you to it. And thank you also to my previous patrons. I appreciate your support. The other group is my YouTube subscribers, and we're getting really close to 14,000 subscribers, which is amazing. I think by the time this video gets published, we probably will have passed that, so thank you for that. I never thought we'd get to that point, but I really appreciate it. I also appreciate the nice comments that you leave. Sometimes when you're kind of tired out and you don't feel like doing this, it helps to have some people who you know are getting something useful out of it, so thanks for that. I really appreciate it. I also appreciate the super thanks and the buy me a coffees. Those things really help with the rising cost of materials. So, all right, well, let's get on to this video. This is one of my design idea books, and I don't have to do much drawing today because we're talking mostly advice-wise and not so much doing a project. But I do find these super useful for projects. In recent times, on the backs of these, I put some conversion tables. This one's got fractions of an inch to decimals to millimeters, which I find pretty useful. There's another one that has American wire gauge to metrics, and that's also very useful for some people. But yeah, I like to draw up my designs in advance. I find I get a better outcome usually when I do that. And so those are available in my merch store. Like I said, we're not doing much sketching today, but I did outline kind of what I'm going to talk about. So the thing that I always think about when I think about contract pieces goes back a long time ago, and this is probably 15 to 20 years ago. I had a woman approach me, and she had some beach glass that she found when she was on a vacation, and she really wanted me to make a pendant out of it. And so we sat down, and it was part of a broken bottle. You could tell that it had been abraded over time in the sand, and so it had a slight concave shape to it. And we talked about how she wanted it set as a pendant, and we talked about whether it would look better with the rounded side out or the concave side facing forward. And between the two of us, we decided that it would look better with the concave side facing forward. And so we drew up a design, and over the course of the next week or two, I made it, and then I called her, and she came over to pick it up, and she looked at it, and she goes, "Oh." And I was like, "Oh, is there something wrong?" And she goes, "Well, I was thinking we were going to put the glass the other way." And so in her mind, somehow, even though I'd written down everything, she was convinced that we decided that the glass needed to be the opposite direction. So even though I was a little bit irked about that, I said, okay, fine, I will remake it. And I shouldn't have done that probably, but I did. And it came out looking not nearly as good as it did the first time. I thought the first version was pretty cool. And so I called her up after a while and said, hey, I finished your revised pendant, but I didn't get her. I got her answering machine, and so I left a message, and I never heard back from her. So I called her again, never heard back from her. Called her again, never heard back from her. After the third call, I just gave up, and I decided I was just going to have to eat that one. The thing that I learned from that involves multiple lessons. This is some advice for you if you want to avoid problems like that. The first thing that I would suggest to you is that you create a form for custom pieces that involves things like what size, if it's a ring, what size is it? What kind of stone do you want? Have you picked out the stone? Do you have a stone or are you providing it? Also, sketch the piece as you agreed to do it for them. An estimate of what the price is going to be, and I would try and make it as accurate of an estimate as you can, and also maybe a timeline for when you expect to complete it. And that's actually more for you because, and maybe this isn't the same with you, but for me, I work a little bit better when I have a deadline. And so if I give myself a deadline to have something done by, I will generally have it done by that point. So that helps to keep me from procrastinating if I have that in my head. So having a nice form that has all this information listed on it, their contact information, you know, how payment is going to be made, and also if you're doing it via mail, how much the postage is going to be. So pretty much try to calculate everything in that you're going to be needing to know about this piece, and have a general form that you use for that, and fill it out every time you get a request for a contract piece. That's number one. Number two, I would, if it involves stones, I would make sure that you have a plan if something goes wrong with the stone. Every once in a while, when you're making a piece of jewelry, one of your stones will break. So if you don't have a matching stone that you can use as a backup stone, that's going to cause a problem, and the person's going to be super disappointed. So let them know in advance, you know, this is a unique stone. If something goes wrong, I can't necessarily replace it, just so that's up front. And in the case of that, I would either sit down with them and do a redesign of a piece with a different stone, or I would just give them any money back that I had already taken from them. Make sure you plan for that in advance, because things happen sometimes and you'll break a unique stone. So third, and I never used to do this because I always kind of was counting on the goodwill of people, but require a deposit up front of some money. It doesn't necessarily have to be the whole amount, but I would suggest that you get up to about 50%, and it's non-refundable because it does a couple of things. One, it lets you know that they're serious and are going to follow through with really wanting this piece, because you get a lot of people who say, oh, I'd love it if you'd design this piece for me, and then you go through the whole process and then you never hear from them again. And it kind of puts something in stone that they have sacrificed for a little bit, so they're going to follow through more likely. And a couple of things about that deposit. If when you're done they aren't pleased with what you've made, even though it's what you agreed to, I would say that's fine. That's fine. I would keep the deposit and not redo it for them, unless they wanted me to redo it and paid extra for the time that it's involved. Because that's your work time, and if you did it just like you said you were going to do and it came out great and they just don't like it, that's not your problem. If for some reason you had something wrong with it, you made it and it wasn't up to the quality that they had expected and they have a legitimate reason, I would absolutely give them their money back. You know, that's my bad, or I did something that wasn't up to my normal standards and I was still trying to sell it. Hopefully I wouldn't do that in the first place, where I was trying to give them something that I didn't think was up to par. But if that happens and they notice something that you didn't notice, yeah, absolutely I'd give them their money back, and I would keep the piece or redo it for them. But the big thing is, if they want you to redesign it again, don't do it for free, because you agreed on a design, and just because they changed their mind or decided that that design didn't look the same way that they thought it was going to look, that is really not your problem, and you should be paid for the time that you're putting into making this piece. The fourth thing that I would do is make sure you charge an appropriate amount for your work. You're an artist and you're doing a custom piece for someone, and it's taking time out of your regular schedule to do that, and they need to understand that if you want something custom designed, there's usually a premium fee for that. You can just go to a jewelry store and buy something, but if you're getting an artist to make something for them, there's going to be they should expect to pay a little bit more for it. So set your price at the higher end of what you would normally charge, because you're doing this above and beyond what you normally do. I already addressed this a little, but it's really important. If they decide that what you did is not what they wanted, make sure that they know that if they want you to redo it, it's going to cost additional money. And I would pay yourself the normal hourly wage that you expect for that. So do it or don't do it, but don't do it for free, because your time is valuable. So those are kind of the 5 things that I was thinking that you should think about when you're doing a contract piece, in order to protect yourself and to make sure your customer gets something that they're happy with. Okay, well, so go get out there and make some pretty stuff. Well, that was some advice about doing contract pieces. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to hit the like button before you leave, and then take a moment and go peruse some of my other videos. I have about 370 videos, I think, now, and there's certainly something else you'll find interesting, so check them out. Come back and subscribe. I'd love to have you as a subscriber. And before you leave, make sure to hit the video description down below. There's some important links, including where you can buy that ebook. Also, there's a link to my merch store where you can get those design idea books, which I find so valuable. And there's even a link to my Patreon site if you're interested in checking that community out. So there's a few other links. Check them out. Thanks for watching. Come back and see us again. Take care. Happy silversmithing.